All right, we should be recording. All right, so take it away. I'm going to
Okay.
pin you. Pin. There we go. I'm going to turn off my video. Take it away.
Okay, great. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a short little recap of the longer video that I gave Monique the link to. And right now that's an unlisted YouTube video. So the only way to see it is to click on that link. Eventually, I will get it up on my public YouTube, but it'll probably be like a week or two before I do that. I need to do, I just filmed it as I was making because I was just having so much fun. I said, oh, let me turn on my camera and do a little lesson. So there's no like intro or anything like that to it. I just boom, go right into it. But this is, let me show you some samples of what I actually made in the video I showed you. So these are on different types, different weights, qualities of paper. And they're all very pretty. However, you're going to get the most dramatic result if you use watercolor paper. You don't have to use watercolor paper. You can use other papers. I've got some mixed media paper here. I've got some cardstock. I've got some sulfite paper, which is a lightweight mixed media paper that's often used in schools. Sulfite means it's had the acids and lignins removed, so it doesn't yellow over time. And you can buy it in bulk relatively inexpensively, so that's why school districts tend to purchase it. It's similar to a construction paper, but not exactly. But you could kind of think of it that way. But I don't know that construction paper is acid-free and lignin-free. So I don't know if construction paper would yellow or not. But because I taught high school art, I've got sulfite paper. I just buy it in a ream because I use it quite often. So these two resists that I use, these two techniques, this one is using plastic wrap on wet watercolor. And the round one was using big bubble wrap on wet watercolor. So those were these were the ones that I played with. I also had some small bubble wrap. However, the sample that I created, I then used and I cut out some leaves, but this is two little pieces of it. And what I'm working on right now for this group, I have scanned my samples that I made, and I've put them into Canva, and I'm just making a little like PDF that you could print. So if you want to have some papers that you could just print out multiple copies of, these are fairly life-size to my samples. So just to give you an idea, if I scanned this and then filled it to the whole page, of course this design would be bigger, and it would probably the detail would probably fuzzy up a little bit. The other thing I did is I traced a template I had that I cut these leaves, that I used to cut these leaves. So I just traced it, and I put this also, this is a copy now. So I put this also into the little PDF. So when I'll finish that up this afternoon, and either today or tomorrow, I'll get the link to Monique so she can put that in the chat so you guys can print these papers off as well, if you want to. They're a lot of fun to do, like what I did, where I cut the leaf shape out of it, because it's just so, it really has that veiny kind of look to it, these different papers. So let me really quickly see if I'll do one bubble wrap and I'll do one plastic wrap, just to quickly go through the technique. The video that Monique put the link up to, I do all of the samples of it, and I give lots of tips and tricks and things like that. So, but I just want to kind of do a little quick overview of the plastic wrap and the bubble wrap. So what I've got here is I've just got a little pad of watercolor paper. This one's 8 by 8. With this technique, because you need to put it into wet, heavily pigmented watercolor, it really works best to do a small size. If you want to do a large sheet, then you have to be kind of strategic with it and get a little bit of the area wet and pigmented with your watercolor, and then put the plastic wrap on, and then do another little area and put another piece of plastic wrap on, and do another little area and put another piece of plastic wrap on. So you have to kind of, if you're going to go large, you have to build it section by section by section, because as soon as the watercolor starts drying at all, the pigment is less, I'm going to say soupy on the paper, and the less resist effect you'll get from the plastic wrap or the bubble wrap. Does that make sense? So you really have to kind of move quickly with this technique. So what I've done is I just have some inexpensive watercolors here, and I went ahead and I got them pre-moistened by spraying them with just water in a spray bottle, and so that they've been sitting here while we've been talking, so that water can get in to the pigment of the watercolor and really get it started activating. So I've got that, and I've got a jar of water, and I have a round bristle brush. This one is a 12. For this technique, I like to have a bigger brush so that you can pick up more pigment quickly and get it down on the paper. I also have pieces of very sticky plastic wrap, and I have some small bubble wrap, and I have some bigger bubble wrap, and I've got that all right here ready to go near me so that I can work rapidly at this. So I've discovered the best way for the plastic wrap and the bubble wrap is to actually pre-wet your paper. This is a 8 by 8 size, and I'm not going to do the whole thing. I'm just going to do a little section of it because I want to move quickly. And I think for this whole 8 by 8, I would have to do, I'd have to do more than one application. Does that make sense? So I'm just going to do one on here, and then I'll get a fresh piece of watercolor paper and I'll do one plastic wrap and one bubble wrap, just so that you can get a gist of what the technique is right now. So I discovered it really works best with this, because you have to work quickly, to go ahead and get your paper wet. And so I'm just going to dip my brush into my water here, and then I'm going to just do a blob. About a quarter of this sheet is what I'm working on right now. So I've just done it. I've gotten it wet, and you can't see that, of course. Maybe you can see a little bit of the shine here. And now I'm going to go into my watercolors. And what I'm trying to do is I want to get a good amount of pigment on my brush. I do not want this to be a light wash. I want a lot of pigment on my brush. And then I'm going to go into where it's already wet and get that on there. And I'm going to work quickly. So I'm going with red, and now I'm going to get some orange. And again, I'm trying to get a lot of pigment on my brush. So this is not a wash. This is nice, rich pigment. And I don't have much yellow yet, but I'm going to come in and get some yellow in there. My yellow has been contaminated. So it's looking a little brown. Okay, so this is all very wet. I'm going to actually go in and apply a little bit more, because just even as I've been demoing this and talking about this, this watercolor is already starting to dry, and it really works better if there's nice kind of soupy pigment on the paper. Okay, so I'm going to do the bubble wrap first, because that's easiest. And what you do is you simply put this flat on your desk, on your tabletop, take your bubble wrap and put it on top, and press it on there. Now I'm going to try and lift this up and see if you can see the texture. Can you see the texture that's happening through the bubbles? So what you want to do is put this aside somewhere so it can dry undisturbed. Now, depending on your climate, that might mean it's going to dry overnight because you want this to be completely dry before you pull that bubble wrap off. And it's important that the bubble wrap has contact with the paper. So it's not just kind of resting on there with airspace. You've got contact on there. So I just make sure that I press it down with my hand. Okay, now I'm going to talk about a little tip I gave in the video that Monique is going to link to. If you're going to make a lot of these, you need to have your bubble wrap, of course, in pieces so that you can, put one piece of bubble wrap on each piece of paper that you've painted. So then you end up with all these little paintings, right? I have 2 dogs and 2 cats, and they love to come and terrorize me in my art room. So having stuff just out on like my tabletop, that would be bait for my cats to come and, cause havoc. So what you can do if you don't have any kind of drying rack or something like that, if you get cardboard tray type boxes, like maybe you buy soda in flat, or you buy cat food or dog food in flats or things like that. These I just picked up at Costco. So you can get several of these, and I can put a big paper here to dry, and then I have another one, and I can rest that on top, and now I can put more to dry in here. And then I have another one, and I can rest that one on top. And so now I can make like this tower, right? So it's not spread all over my floor. It's going up vertical, but each paper is not going to get disturbed. Does that make sense? So that's just kind of if space is a problem for you with drying, then this is one way to tackle that problem. Okay, so let me put my paper in my little tray and get out this next one. So in terms of applying the paint, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to get an area wet. I'm going to do roughly 1/4 of this. Get it wet with your different colors. And this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the plastic wrap. Now, I have experimented with some plastic wrap that came as part of packaging in something, and it didn't stick to itself the way this kitchen wrap does. You want the stuff that sticks to itself because when you scrunch it on the wet watercolor pigment, it will, the little wrinkles will stay wrinkled. Whereas with the plastic that comes part of packaging, because it's not sticking to itself, the wrinkles will smooth back out again. And you need to have the wrinkles to get the veining effect in this paper. Does that make sense? So I'm going to get this wet, and I'm going to put my watercolor paint on here, and then I'm going to put the plastic wrap on. So same thing. I'm going to get it wet, get my paper wet first, and then I'm going to go in and again, I'm trying to get a lot of pigment on my brush. So I'm going over the same spot with the same color so I can get that nicely richly pigmented. And then I'm going to go in with the red. And then what if I get wild and crazy and do some red violet over here? Okay, now the first color I put down is already soaking in, so I'm going to go back and add more pigment because it really works best when there's lots of pigment on there. Okay, I think this is good. Okay, now I'm going to put this flat on the table. I'm going to get my plastic wrap, and you need a piece of plastic wrap that is larger than the area you're going to cover, because you're going to, once you lay this on your painting, you're going to squish it and wrinkle it up, and so that piece of plastic wrap will in sense shrink because now it's got wrinkles in it, right? So here's my plastic wrap, and I'm laying it. So I'm laying it on my painting, and now I'm going to go and smush the wrap and make lots of wrinkles. And you want some areas to be touching your watercolor paper. So there's the flat areas of the plastic wrap are actually touching the watercolor paper. And then there's the wrinkles, which are like an air bubble between those flat spaces. Does that make sense? When this dries, what happens with the plastic wrap is wherever the plastic is touching here, wherever the plastic is touching the paper, those will be darker areas. And then wherever the wrinkle, the bubble of the wrinkle is, that's going to be that veining, kind of that fractury veining light areas. Does that make sense? So when you're laying your plastic down, you can kind of, move those wrinkles and those flat spaces, and you can take advantage of what's touching the watercolor paint and what is creating a wrinkle. So that's going to be the veining. And then where the plastic wrap is touching, those are going to be those darker spots. Okay. So these are going to need to dry. And depending again on your particular climate, like if you're cold and wet and rainy, it might be tomorrow. They might have to dry overnight. Up until this weekend, I have been hot still. We've been like, in the 80s still. So mine only took, I think like 2 to 3 hours, and it was dry. But it was a really warm day. So you have to kind of, wait a few hours and then go and like peel one little part off. And if the paint is still wet, either on the paper or you're getting beads of paint on the plastic as you peel it, it's still wet and you need to let it dry a little bit longer. Okay, so those are the two resists that I'll show more in depth, and I'll do all these different samples for you in the video that Monique has listed. But there's more fun things you can do. I think it was the first week, or it might have been the second week, there was one that talked about using salt on watercolor. That's so much fun. So you do something similar to what I've done with the wet paper and putting a lot of pigment of watercolor on. And then you sprinkle salt in the different wet areas. And I've got a very fine grade sea salt. I've got a little bit coarser grade sea salt. And then I've got this is kosher, which has a larger crystal structure, and you can use rock salt, and so you can try the different grains. The different size of the grains will give you different patterns. So let's do one with some salt. Okay, so I'm going to just do the same thing. I'm going to wet my paper. And because this I can do in sections more easily than I could do the plastic. So I'm going to do all 3 sizes of salt on one page. So I've just got my whole thing wet, and I'm going to add some various colors. So I added a purple. Now I'm adding a red. I think think I'm going to add like a teal color. And then how about a green? And a darker green. And then let's put an orange at the bottom of the red. Okay, so I've got quite a collection of colors there. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to sprinkle some different size salt in the different areas. So I'm just pouring a little bit. You could either salt shaker it on, or I'm just pouring a little bit in my hand, and I'm going to sprinkle it. So that was the fine grain. And let's do the bigger grain. So on the purple and the teal, I've done the kosher. And then let's do the coarser grain sea salt on the green. So you still need to move fast enough that your paint isn't dry, because it's the wetness of the paint that's catching the salt crystals. Now let's see if I can see if any of this is actually pulling yet. It might not be. A little bit, let me see if I can get this close enough. A little bit in the purple. I don't know if you can see where there are some areas that are darker and some areas are, the paint is getting pulled away. So someone who knows chemistry would be able to tell me what's happening with the water and the salt and the pulling away and the pushing away, or pulling towards and pushing away. I used to know it. I don't know that anymore. But what you'll end up getting is when it's dry, when it's completely dry, and again, that might mean overnight, it might mean a couple hours. It depends on your climate. Once it's completely dry, you want to get all that salt off of there, because the salt is going to degrade your paper over time. So before you use that paper in an art project, you want to make sure that all that salt is rubbed off. Okay, we're able to see a little bit in the red and a little bit in the turquoise. So what I'm noticing in this teal turquoisey area is where the little salt clump is. There's almost like a pale halo around that salt clump, because it's pushing the pigment and the water away. And so you're almost getting like a little reverse freckle effect. Instead of being dark spots, it's being light spots in that pigment. All right. Okay, so let's do, how are we doing on time? 1:34. I don't know how long this is supposed to go. Let's do, I'm sorry?
Yeah. So you're good. We usually do about an hour, so you're okay.
Okay, great, good. Is this, does anyone have questions, or can I just keep rolling?
And like I said, anybody has questions, put up. I haven't seen one pop up yet. They might all just be kind of getting into it. So
okay.
They're usually pretty good about picking up if they need to. So you should be all right.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
I get into it. I just I get so wrapped up in all this painty play. I just, I kind of lose track. I get in this flow state and lose track. All right, so we've got, I should really put the lids on these salts so I don't spill them all over my desk. Okay, so we've done the plastic wrap. We've done the bubble wrap. I'm going to show you close up I'm just seeing a little scrap of the tiny bubble wrap. If you can get your hands on some of this. This for me is harder to come by. I seem to get a lot of the large bubble in packaging, but I don't get the tiny one often. But the tiny one, you don't get so much the wrinkles in the middle of the bubble, but you get these really cool like outline. It's like an outline, and it's so here's the big one. See how there's wrinkles where the bubbles sat? So the little one doesn't give you that, but it gives you those darker outlines, which is really cool. I really like it. So if you can get your hands on some small bubble wrap, that would be great. Okay,
I got
so
a comment from Angela. She said, "I just want to say thank you. I watched your video prior to this and just finished working on some monochromatic red, orange, yellow, and green. It was easy, fast, and fun."
oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. So I'm going to go into teacher mode here. So when you're using these paints, I don't know if you noticed, but when I put my watercolors down, if I had a warm color, yellow, orange, red, violet, I would keep those could touch each other, but I would keep and like intermingle. That would be fine. But I would keep them away from the cool colors like blue, the teal, darker bluer purples, like more indigo and things like that. Keep the cool colors separate from the warm colors in terms of where the paint actually intermingles and touches and gets on top of each other. When you mix warm colors with cool colors, that's when you're going to get the mud happening. Now, I have to tell you, if you want lovely browns and fall, not where I live because I'm in California and it's all oak trees and pine trees, so I don't get lovely colors. But those of you that don't live where I live and you get lovely colors, there are really gorgeous browns happening. And a way to get really gorgeous browns is on purpose to take one warm color and one cool color and just do like predominantly the warm color and add just a bit of the cool color in there. And you'll get these very rich, gorgeous browns happening. So you can make brown on purpose and they're lovely and complex and super gorgeous. Or if you don't want mud, keep those colors separate from each other. Now I have some that have budded up right next to each other, but they're not mingling together. So you just be careful if you don't want mud, just be careful on your color placement. Okay, does that make sense? Have I explained that well enough? So I'm assuming
Pretty
that
good
that's
to me.
yeah, that's all good, right? Okay, good.
Very,
All right.
very good color lesson. Yes.
Okay. So yeah, that's a really quick, very, very tiny, quick color theory. But if you just know that, that will really help you keep your colors pure. Or if you want them toned down and you want those rich complex, then you can play around with mixing warms and cools. So you can practice that and play with that. And then it's in your control, right? Okay, let's do some other resists. So I have some Neocolor Conte crayon, Neocolor Caran-d'Ache crayons. These are water soluble. And what that means is, like watercolor paint, you can dilute them with water. And once they're dry, if you get them wet again, they're going to bleed. It's going to reactivate that pigment. It's not a permanent color that won't move. It will move when it gets wet. Does that make sense? So once you've made your thing, if you don't want that to move and you want these water reactivated media to stay permanent, then you're going to need to seal it somehow, either with several coats of a spray workable fixative. That's something that it's called workable fixative. And it's a sealer that when you spray several light coats, it will seal what you've worked on so far, but it won't make this glossy surface. It'll make kind of a textury, gritty surface. It's called tooth. That's the fancy pants art term, is tooth. So that you can go and apply more layers of media on top. Does that make sense? Spray is handy because you're not going over those water reactivated media with a brush, which is then going to smear it. So like if you tried to brush on matte medium, for example, you're now, unless you're super, super careful with a light hand, you're brushing on top of this media that can reactivate. So you can get smears. So anyway, you can do a spray workable fixative if you're going to want to go back and add more layers. So that workable fixative will seal it, but give it tooth so that you can go add more layers. If you're done and you don't want to add any more layers, then you could do like a spray varnish. Now, spray varnish is slicker and shinier and plasticier. Does that make sense? So then it's hard to go back and add more things on top because now you've got this slick plasticky surface. Okay. There's another spray. The name of it is escaping me right now, but it's made out of casein. So if you don't want to use spray fixative or spray varnish because those are they're man-made plastic products, plus they stink, so you have to use them outside. There is one, something like, I'm going to say like Spectra Fix. I'm not sure of the name, but it's made of casein, which is a milk protein. And so that one does not have odors and things like that. So you could use it like inside your art room. It would be fine. It doesn't emit odors that, you know, are going to make you high or anything like that, kill brain cells or whatever. So anyway, that was a little tangent I just went on for sealing. I do know people, one more thing, when they're all done with these water reactive medium, I have not tried it, but people have said they can roll out matte medium on their jelly plate, roll a thin coat out, and then take your water reactivated artwork and you can press it down on the jelly plate, which now has this matte medium on it, and peel it off. And so that way you're not brushing it on, so you're not smearing your artwork. I haven't tried that yet, but it makes tons of sense to me because matte medium is actually what acrylic paint, it is the binder in acrylic paint. So not in your water solubles, but in your acrylic paint, matte medium with color added to it, and maybe a couple other little chemical things, is paint, right? So that makes sense to me that if you have matte medium, which is clear, then that would seal anything that you would, if you wanted to roll that on your jelly plate. So you can try that and see if that works for you if you like that. All right, blah, 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 blah. That's enough. Let's get back to playing and having fun. Okay, so I've got these Cran d'Ache, and as I said, these are water soluble. So I'm gonna draw them on my watercolor paper, and then I'm gonna go over it with a watercolor wash. And because I know these are water soluble, I know I might get a little bit of smearing where the crayon mark is. So let's see what happens. So because pink is my favorite color, I am gonna make pink circles on this watercolor paper. All right. So I've got, that's my Neocolor 2 crayon there. And then let's go over that. With, I'm going to take some orange, and I don't have to have as strong of a pigment load as I did with my last one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this orange here, and I'm going to go to the lid of my watercolor. I'm going to smear that orange in there, and I'm just going to add a little bit of water just to thin that out a little bit. So not a super light wash, but a little bit more wet. And
Nicole just had a comment. I love all the information. Very informative. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm like, I just keep spewing, so I hope I'm not overwhelming and overloading you. Okay. Whoops. So that's Neocolor. All righty. Let's try, let's see, you have regular crayons too, don't you? Okay, regular crayons. I've got a purple one here. What is this? Plum. Okay, regular crayons are, these particular ones are wax based. I know that they're, depending on the brand of crayon you get, I'm thinking like kids crayons, right? They're, I know they have different materials that create the crayon itself. So I know like there's crayons that are made that are like vegan, for instance. These ones used to have an animal byproduct in there. I can't remember what it was. I want to say a type of fat maybe. But anyway, so this one is the wax base, that big brand name that we all know, right? Okay, so now these are purple. So I'm going to just do some more circles with a purple crayon. And we'll see what happens. Okay, I'm going to show you real quick. I'm going to go back to the previous one I did. Can you see how those pink circles, some of them are starting to smear a little bit? Because when I put the wash of watercolor over it, I brushed over the whole thing. And as I'm brushing over those pink circles, those Neocolor 2, because they're water soluble, that pigment in the crayon softens and smears just a little bit. Do you see that? Now I could go back and I could like really, I could really scrub on that with a wet paintbrush and really get that to smear if I wanted to. But I noticed that was happening. So I'm sorry, I'm being like a squirrel and I'm jumping around, but I wanted to show you that. Okay, so down here, this is just regular good old fashioned wax crayon. Okay, so this one is not water soluble. Let's do the same. Should we do the same orange? So I'm doing the same thing. I'm putting the paint on the lid here. That's my palette. Adding just a little bit of water. So it's kind of like the consistency of maybe cream or half and half. Okay, so do you see how those circles, none of them have moved? There's been no pigment pickup with the wax crayon. There has been pigment pickup with the Neocolor. Okay. All righty. Let's see. Let's do, okay, these are called Stabilo Woodies. They're a colored pencil. They're a big fat colored pencil. So they kind of remind me of, you know, those big fat crayons that they have for preschoolers and kindergartners in size. That's kind of what they remind me of in size. But it is a waxy watercolor crayon. So yes, it's waxy. However, it's also water reactive. So just like if you had a watercolor color pencil, that these can do the same thing. So you can use them on top of other dry layers. And then you could go and like smear it with a wet finger, you know, if you wanted to have real control. You could color a big old swatch and you could go with a wet brush and turn it into pigment and smear it around. But we're going to try doing the same thing that we just did. I've got that same piece of paper. And you know what, let me do a different color. So I did purple and red. Let's do let's do blue. Okay, so I've got a blue one. So I'm going to just do, by my purple, I'm going to just do some blue circles. And I'm pressing fairly hard with this because I want to get a lot of pigment on there. Okay, now, color lesson. So I've been doing the watercolor part, I've been doing with orange watercolor. And this now is a blue water soluble, like fat watercolor pencil, basically. So orange and blue are opposite each other on the color wheel. Blue is a cool color. Orange is a warm color. So if I was right in my color theory lesson that I did a little bit ago, I've got two colors when blended would give me a brown tone. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens when I go over these blue water soluble color pencil with the orange watercolor paint. It'll be interesting to see if there's enough pigment interaction that I get any hint of brown. I don't know if we're going to. We're scientists now, so we're going to run that experiment and see what happens. Okay, so I'm just going back to that same orange. I'm like, you know what, let's just keep it consistent because that'll make it the easiest to see the results and what happens. Okay, and my orange is pretty soupy on my palette right now, so I'm not going to add. Oh, look at that. Look at that. We're getting kind of a greenish brown where the blue and the orange are mixing. Interesting. Also with these woodies, ooh, okay, I'm having fun. Okay, this is what I do all afternoon. I get so sidetracked just having fun. Look at how interesting all those different, for me, it's reading green. I'm getting these kind of brownish green colors is what I'm naming them. But look at the interesting variation in color. Now, I pressed hard with those woodies. It wasn't a light pressure. So I'm going to try again because I'm fascinated by this. I'm going to try again right next door, and I'm not going to push so hard with that blue. I'm going to use the same blue and the same orange, but I'm not going to push so hard. And let's see what happens. Okay. So that one does not have as much pigment load from the Stabilo Woody. All right. Clean my brush. Going into that orange paint, I'm going to get clean paint, so I'm not contaminating it. I'm not contaminating it with what I just did. And let's see what happens. I'm still getting some, but not as dramatic. Okay, so these are the same orange paint, same blue Stabilo Woody. This one I pressed hard, so I got a lot of pigment on my watercolor paper when I pressed with the blue Stabilo Woody. This one I did not press hard. I just drew like I was, like you're writing with a pencil, just normal pressure. So isn't that interesting? Exactly the same materials. So the only difference was how much pigment came off the Stabilo Woody to give you two very, very different effects. Okay, cool. That's really, really fun. Okay. Did I show you the papers inside the PDF? Did I show you that? The reason why I'm bringing this up again is because this one has the leaf outlines. I know many of you probably have like punches or rubber stamps or, other kinds of things that you can now, once these papers are wet, you can put onto these papers and then cut them out, right? So then you have really pretty focal points that you can use. But when I said, "Ooh, I want to do that," I discovered I don't have any of those. And so, but I did find a kind of like a stencil-y. It was for chipboard cutouts, and I had the leftover negative part of it. So I just traced the shapes, and then I flipped it. So you got a mirror image of the same. There were 3 different leaves. So I traced them in one direction, flipped over the, I'm going to call it a stencil, and then trace the other direction so that you have a positive and a negative of both of those leaves. So then you can, what I tend to do is I print that out, and then I get like an old file folder, and I just put a glue stick all over the back of my printout, and I glue stick it onto the file folder, and then I cut those shapes out, and then I have, they wouldn't be stencils, they'd be masks, right? Because they're the other way around. But anyway, you now have templates that are file folder weight that you can trace around. So you could cut yourself out some really pretty leaves from all these little watercolor papers we did. Okay, any other questions? Because we're coming up right about at an hour.
I don't see anything yet. I love everything. I want to try everything.
It's so much fun.
I'm the same way. If I start playing, I won't stop. And I'm like, I can't play yet. I got stuff to do. I can't play yet.
Yeah. Yeah. Is everyone familiar with those Stabilo Woodies? I didn't, let me show you the packaging. So they come in this really big, I don't know if you have to buy this many at one time, but anyway, they might.
I've never seen them before.
You have or have not?
I have not.
Yeah, so they're called Woody. And it says it's a 3-in-1 pencil. I think I got this one on Amazon. I don't think I got, I'm out in the boonies, and there's a really wonderful Dick Blick art store about 2 hours away from me, but like even Michael's and, you know, those kinds of things are like an hour and a half away from me. So.
I see you got to make your shopping trips really count.
And they're expensive.
Yeah.
Because you save it all up, right?
No, I get these gift cards from Michael's every so often, every quarter or something like that for doing something.
Nice. Nice.
And I always go in.
Yeah.
Like, oh,
yeah.
My quarterly shopping day.
Yeah. And sometimes what they don't have in the store, they will have online.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if I've seen the Stabilo Woodies.
I don't think I've ever seen them in Michael's.
Yeah, I don't think I have either. If they're in there, they're either going to be in the kids section, or they're going to be in the fine art section, where you have your nice brushes and the tubes of acrylic paint and the golden, you know, the little bottles of golden acrylic paint. So one of those 2 spots, but I don't know if they have them.
I've seen the markers and all of that all the time. Looks like I'm seeing them online only right now.
Okay.
Yeah, and it looks like they're from other sellers. It doesn't look like they're coming direct. Oh no, there's some coming. Well, no. Well, they do have a Stabilo Woody, but it's like the kid one.
That's what these are. Yeah. Okay. I think their build is as a kid's art supply.
It looks like they do sell them, but online only. So you can use coupons.
Those of you who are lucky enough to have one.
They only have them online though. But
yeah. And they're a lot of fun because the tip is so broad. You can do things like have your wet paintbrush and over the paper, like flick your paintbrush over the tip of the pencil, and then you'll get like spatters from it.
Yeah.
You could draw with them, squiggly draw with them. I like to use them a lot as like a finishing layer. If I've done a multi-layered mixed media piece, then I'll go back over the top, and draw some like gesture type marks. And then you would have to spray it for it to be set, because this will, you could, you know, rub it off and smear it. If it got wet, it would reactivate because it is a water soluble pigment. So if you're going to do it on a painting, you're going to hang on the wall, for instance, you would want to go back and seal it.
There's like all kinds of noise here. I wonder then if you could use it the same as like the Faber-Castell and Recollections crayons, a watercolor. Well, but they're watercolors, I guess not.
Yeah. So it's a very, very similar thing. What's different about these woodies? They're a little waxier. They're a little waxier in feeling, and they're so the point is so big, so you get a really big, broad, you know, line.
Yeah, Patty was saying that most Michael's coupons are online only now. They stopped putting out a print ad, I believe, because I know they were talking about no longer putting out print ads. I haven't seen a print ad for Michael's. I don't know how many years. I think they stopped when I was still working there, and I haven't worked there since 2020. So yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I still get email. I get email ones all the time, and I get just an email.
Yeah.
I'm always getting them. They want me to come back and buy something.
Yeah, and I don't think I've seen these at Hobby Lobby. For those of you that have Hobby Lobbies, I don't think I've seen these there. I've seen them in like Dick Blick. Often they'll have them where you can just buy one. You know how they do that in art stores like Dick Blick and stuff like that, where you don't have to buy your colored pencils and things like that as a box set. Yeah. Often you can buy just the specific color you're looking for. That's how I've seen them, like at Dick Blick, but maybe even online you might be able to buy the set.
Michael's is showing it as either singles or they have like a bunch of different sets, and it looks like they are selling them directly, but there's also other sellers. Cool. So some of them say coupons are accepted, some of them are not.
Right. Cool. Yeah, they're a lot of fun. I like
probably find it on the Azon. So
yeah. What's that calling? Enabling. I'm enabling all of you to go buy art supplies. Hey, but you know what's good about these? They don't dry out, right?
Yeah.
Were you talking about that, Monique, about our art supplies that we don't use and then they dry out?
I hate when that happens.
This is a good investment. They don't dry out.
Yeah, they definitely have them on the Azon, of course. Best place to grab everything quick. No matter where you live, almost anywhere they deliver, or at least you can go pick it up.
Yeah.
I want to find some white, the clear crayons again.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so those ones I did see at Hobby Lobby in a package of 3. Go into the fine art section that has the tubes of acrylic paint and all their artist brushes. And there was a pack, and they look like to me, they look like the crayons that you used to get in the egg dyeing kits at Easter, but they don't have a wrapper on it. It's just the wax crayon.
Yeah. All right. Anybody have any last minute questions? Let us know. Let us know how everybody's doing today, what you're working on. Our challenge is almost done.
It's gone so fast.
It's crazy.
So fast.
I got somebody typing. Let's see. I'll get that on. Ooh, I try not to turn it on because right now I'm in that spot where the sun likes to hit me right now. Working on everything, trying to catch up. Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you my salt paper. I just noticed it's getting it's still damp. There's still, all the salt is still on there, but it's really starting to show that resist happening where the salt crystals, especially it seems like this turquoisey color. See how there's all those white halos around where the little salt crystal is. Yeah. Super fun.
Always fun for that one.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, well, if no one has any more questions, I guess we will conclude for here. There's no live tomorrow, but there will be a video. So just know that there will be a live on, let me make sure it's Wednesdays. Let me double check that. Not Wednesdays. Is it Thursday? I don't remember what day I had it set for. Oh wait, Thursday's Halloween. No, I know we're not doing a live that day because there's no one else. Basically, almost every day we'll probably pop on a little bit. Since it's our last week, we usually do. So I'll probably pop on tomorrow just to, usually it's always going to be around noon or 1 o'clock. So just keep a lookout all week. I'll pop in and out all week just to say hey and see if anybody has any questions. And then we'll have our live wrap up on Friday at 4. So just know our wrap up is going to be on Friday at 4. We're basically going to say bye-bye for now. But again, just so you guys know, keep in mind that even though our lives will be done, which they actually aren't always done. Let me stop the recording from here just so I don't have to edit anything.